Tonight on NAIT NewsWatch.
New licensing requirements put Uber in limbo again.
If there's an accident, they're going to have coverage. And secondly, that when they get into that vehicle, they're going to be as safe as possible.
Wildfire season is starting a month early this year due to unusually dry conditions.
You need to get a fire permit on March 1st instead of April 1st. And the big reason for that is we need to know where the burning is across the province.
The city is paying its last respect after the death of former Premier Don Getty.
Whether he was on the football field or the floor of the legislature, it was his competitive spirit and tenacity that drove him to succeed.
NewsWatch starts now.
Good evening. Uber riders will now have to look for other forms of transportation.
Uber has suspended operations as of Tuesday morning due to insurance and licensing issues. Bailey Needy has more on that story.
Yes, that's right. As the city's rideshare regulations are now under scrutiny, it's leaving the rideshare business in yet another state of confusion. In fact, there's a new company trying to squeeze its way in as the laws are coming down. The company Uber has been very successful in Edmonton since it started, but now without the proper credentials, Uber may not be up and running until summer.
The real question for the government and for the Department of Transportation was public safety. We limited it to two things: to make sure that people are insured when they get into a vehicle, that if there's an accident, they're going to have coverage, and secondly, that when they get into that vehicle, they're going to be as safe as possible.
Companies, drivers, and cars will now need licenses that are Class 4 or better. The Uber suspension stemmed from the city's new bylaws for private transportation providers.
It sucks really bad because now I can't go party and get an easy ride. Uber always was there for me.
Although Uber is most likely unavailable until summer, there is another company called Tapcar that is looking to take some of Uber's business. The only difference between Uber and Tapcar is that Tapcar has the proper insurance and licensing.
We are a sort of a hybrid between taxi and an Uber, so we'll have all the professionalism and safety of a traditional taxi, including full comprehensive insurance, and all our drivers will have Class 4 licenses as well. But we'll have the convenience of an Uber because we have the same type of app.
The company Tapcar says they are expected to be launching this month, mid-March, and officials from Tapcar also say that they have Uber drivers moving over and applying for their company. Other Uber drivers will have to look for a different source of income in the meantime.
What other things must Uber employees have before they're allowed to run again?
Yeah, well, proper insurance first and foremost, but then they also need a Class 4 or better driver's license, which is a license to drive a commercial vehicle. The vehicles must also pass a proper vehicle inspection, and the driver must obtain a proper criminal record check as well.
What are the consequences for drivers that are still picking up and dropping off customers illegally?
Well, the city says that they expect that the rules will be followed, but if not, the driver will face up to $5,000 in fines.
Thanks, Bailey. That's Bailey Nitty reporting live from our news center tonight.
NAIT NewsWatch, the next generation in news.
The Alberta government is preparing for an early fire season for the 5th year in a row due to rising temperatures. Fire season usually begins on the 1st of April, but since recent years have seen an increased risk of wildfires in the province, the government has pushed it earlier in an effort to keep fires at bay.
If you're doing any burning on your land, you need to get a fire permit. And so you need to get a fire permit on March 1st instead of April 1st. And the big reason for that is we need to know where the burning is across the province.
Albertans can also help prevent wildfires by checking on winter burn sites and taking care when extinguishing campfires.
A former Alberta premier has passed away, and the city is paying its respects.
Whether he was on the football field or the floor of the legislature, it was his competitive spirit and tenacity that drove him to succeed. But it was the values of honor, fairness, and hard work that made him a great leader, and that will remain his greatest legacy.
City Council members took a moment of silence to honor the late Don Getty. Don Getty was a former Edmonton Eskimo turned Alberta premier who steered the province through decades of temperamental oil prices. A memoir and a book of condolences have been set up in the legislature building for anyone who'd like to pay tribute.
Alberta is seeking to make a new transit and bus program. Brian Mason, the Minister of Transportation, launched a new program called Provincial Transit Engagement. The program is asking for Albertans' opinion about their plans for the future. They are planning to build a modern LRT station and a transit center, which gives people easy access to the city's whereabouts.
The Government of Alberta needs to hear from Albertans in rural and urban communities, from the private sector, and municipal and Indigenous partners to develop a strategy for public transportation for today and into the future.
A survey is available online at transportation.alberta.ca.
Mass marketing fraud crimes are increasing in this country. This type of fraud uses the media and internet to steal money, and Edmonton Police is warning Edmontonians to be on the lookout.
We rely on a strong network of community partners to help build a stronger, safer Edmonton.
Edmonton Police says seniors are most likely to become victims of fraud. EPS aims to protect vulnerable Edmontonians from the crime.
The key to this whole process is education and knowledge. The tough thing around fraud and with the victims of fraud is they are being manipulated by individuals who are very good at what they do. They pick out their targets, they identify their vulnerabilities, and they exploit them.
Recognize it, report it, stop it. These are the 3 rules that the police ask people to keep in mind.
Alcohol abuse is an ongoing issue in Alberta, and studies show that more women have been hitting the bottle. Binge drinking is on the rise in Alberta, especially for women. Alberta Health classifies binge drinking as consuming 5 drinks or more in a sitting at least 2 times per month. In 2001, the number of female binge drinkers sat at around 5.22%. By 2014, the percentage had climbed to almost 8.8%. Some think the rise of binge drinking is a cultural side effect that praises drinking in excess.
I think it's become more socially acceptable to drink on a regular basis, and it's a social aspect. You go out and everyone drinks, and so I definitely notice when you go out there's a lot more people that are kind of going over the edge and drinking a lot more than they probably should.
The possible health risks of binge drinking include alcohol poisoning or stroke, and repeated alcohol abuse can lead to cirrhosis, diabetes, or even cancer.
Montreal has recently announced that they will ban the use of plastic bags by 2018, and it sparked a fresh debate in the capital city. The Edmonton City Council is once again looking to open up the possibility of a plastic bag ban in the city. City Councillor Ben Henderson thinks that the issue might be worth another look, although the idea has been getting mixed reviews. Don Bellinger of Capital City Cleanup says that other forms of trash are a more pressing concern.
Right now, according to our litter audit from 2015, the retail plastic bags items in our large litter count is only up slightly by about 1%. In looking at it, it doesn't have a huge impact in the amount of litter on the ground.
Plastic bag bans have already been implemented in some parts of Alberta, like Fort McMurray. The City Council is still in the early stages of deciding if they should implement the ban.
Edmonton Public School District is looking to update schools in mature areas of Edmonton. Schools in older parts of the city are often underfunded due to lack of enrollment growth. The Public School District is looking to update the accessibility and technology of 15 of these schools, but is looking for community input and further changes.
The goal is to engage community and make sure that we end up with a facility that meets their needs and has learning spaces that allow for some growth and some fluctuation over time, and is well suited to the programming that we determine is important to the community.
The district will host public meetings in the upcoming weeks where those affected can give their input in the coming changes.
The Stanley A. Milner Library has now funded over a third of its $10 million goal for renovation and expansions.
Milner is an older building, and it was designed for a particular vision of libraries at the time, and libraries have changed a lot in the intervening 50 years.
In 2014, the library was approved for a $62.5 million revitalization. A large part of that total will be paid for by the City of Edmonton, but the remaining $10 million will be provided by the library through fundraising and private investments. The proposed updates will greatly expand the current library.
We're going to be expanding to 3 public floors. There will be a substantially larger children's library in the building on the ground floor, much larger and more varied makerspace.
The renovated library is hoped to open in 2020, and fundraising will continue until that time.
The NAIT culinary team is returning to Canada with 12 medals after competing in Dubai. The Emirates Salon Culinaire is a culinary competition in Dubai in which bakers, pastry chefs, and cooks show their talent globally. From practical cooking to banqueting showpieces, NAIT competitors prove they have a wide range of skills and techniques. A NAIT culinary coach and instructor says it takes a lot of commitment to be successful, and he's very proud of his students.
It's a huge pride for the School of Hospitality, and it's a big accomplishment for the students.
The NAIT culinary team will be competing again this October for the World Culinary Olympics in Germany.
Coming up after the break, we see how midterm stress affects students.
NAIT offers services to students to help deal with the pressure of midterms.
We do get students during the midterm week who have panic attacks or who get so highly stressed.
I'm Nathan Spencer, coming to sports. I got Ooks men's and women's hockey highlights, and I tried pro wrestling.
Coming up in weather, we are a month ahead of schedule with the warm temperatures, but we will be getting some snow late this weekend. I'll have that and more after this break.
Maddie, this week has been crazy for weather, hey?
You're right about that. I hear we're getting rain and maybe even snow, but we'll pass this off to Ferry Al-Bashir with the weather.
Thanks, ladies, and you're right. We will be getting some rain and snow. It's the first week of March, and the temperatures are still pretty warm. So kicking things off down south, in Calgary, it'll be a high of +8 and a low of -3. Pretty nice there. I want to stick there, but if you're driving up to Jasper to go skiing, some mild temperatures with a high of +2 and a low of -9, and a mix of sun and cloud. If you're driving up to Fort McMurray, you might want to stay indoors because a high of -4 and a low of -10, and 70% chance of flurries Sunday evening. In our capital city, there's a high of +5 and a low of -4, and there's also 40% chance of there being rain turning to snow Sunday evening going to Monday morning. The average is Edmonton is a high of -2 and a low of -11, so not that bad. The records in Edmonton are saying a high of +14 in 1906 and a low of -34 in 1932. So don't want to be in 1932 again. And that's your look at weather. Back to you, ladies.
NAIT NewsWatch weather is brought to you by NR92, the station for the students.
We are officially halfway through the semester, and a lot of students are starting to feel stressed.
We sure are. Our own Steve Watkins looked into how the midterm pressure is affecting life at NAIT.
It's midterm season once again, and many students have started to feel the pressure. Fatigue and stress are major factors affecting students, and when it gets to the middle of the semester, sometimes it can have an impact on their performance.
A number one thing that can happen is that their memory and recall and concentration levels go way down if they're too fatigued and stressed. So they don't do as well on projects or exams. But we do get students during the midterm week who have panic attacks or who get so highly stressed that they're concerned they can't write the exam.
Accounting student Michael Ferguson does find that this can be one of the most taxing times of the year, and the monotony can take its toll.
It's usually most stressful near the end of the midterms because there's so many right in a row. So near the end it gets pretty extreme, especially with accounting. You're tired of looking at numbers all day long.
NAIT offers a variety of services to help students, including counseling, chaplain services, or even weekly meditation sessions with a Buddhist monk. NAITSA also offers a service called the My Wellness Plan that helps students who feel like they're at risk for mental health issues. If you'd like to know more about the My Wellness Plan, visit feelingbetternow.ca. I'm Steve Watkins, NAIT NewsWatch.
The Eskimos made a splash in free agency this week.
That they did. And the Ooks tried to complete their perfect season on Saturday. Isn't that right, Nathan?
Yeah, it's hard to believe they've gone perfect 31-0. Fun fact, they've scored 196 goals this year. That's 73 more than the next closest team. So the men went for history last weekend. The Ooks were trying to be the first team to go undefeated since the 84-85 season. The guys couldn't have asked for a better opponent as they took on the 3-27 Briarcrest Clippers. We'll pick things up in the first period with the Ooks already up by 1 when Trace Ellison sets up Jordan Apt. He loads the cannon and blasts a shot to give the Ooks the 2-0 lead. Not even a minute later, Ellison makes a nice move around the defender and finishes with a sweet backhand. The Ooks take a 3-goal lead not even 10 minutes into the contest. With 2 minutes left in the period, John Dunbar makes a nice redirect in front, good for his team leading 26th goal. The Ooks would only need the first period to put this one away as they cruise to an easy 8-0 win. The win marks the first time an ACAC team has gone undefeated since NAIT did it 31 years ago. Player of the game, Trace Ellison, spoke on the significance of the streak.
I mean, I've never been on a team that's done that, and it's special for me and obviously all the guys in there, especially the fifth-year guys. I mean, they've been here for so long, so I mean, yeah, it's crazy to make history again, but it's a good feeling for sure.
Now over to the women's hockey. They faced off against the arch-rival Grant MacEwan Griffins in semi-final action of the ACAC playoffs. And after losing the season series against the Griffins, NAIT came out fired up, looking like the back-to-back-to-back champions they are. There was no score in the first, so we'll jump to the second, with NAIT pressing behind the net when Montana Kit goes for a pass, and it bangs off the goalie and crosses the line to give the Ooks the 1-0 lead. Yeah, it's a bit of a garbage goal, but in the playoffs, those are the best goals. And yeah, the ladies are fired up. Into the third now with the Ooks up by a pair when Courtney Zajac waits and then fires a shot through traffic to cut the lead in half. 2-1 Ooks. And only 3 minutes later, Jordan Tibbetts finds a streaking Hannah Fulliard who buries the puck to give the Ooks a huge 3-1 lead early in the third period. The Griffins would continue to press, but a great defensive effort helped NAIT lock down the game and sweep the rival Griffins. The women advanced to the ACAC Championship for the 4th consecutive year and look to make it 4 straight title wins. Jordan Tibbetts talked about the team effort over the weekend.
Honestly, I think we really came to play yesterday in the first 2 periods, and I didn't really think they did. And today was just a different story. They were on the line, right? So just do or die for them, so they came out a bit stronger. And I thought we played well too, but they just came to play as well.
After the women's success this weekend, I did a profile on winger Kendra Hansen, a rookie who, despite dealing with an awful illness that forced her to miss the first third of the season, still managed to finish second on the team in goal scoring and help her team punch their ticket to the championship round. Kendra Hansen is in her first year of open studies here at NAIT. At the beginning of the season, she was diagnosed with mononucleosis. And if you aren't familiar with the illness, you're lucky, because it is not a good time.
Just no energy at all, and I was puking. I had absolutely no appetite at all. Like, I had a headache for a week straight. Not good.
When she finally returned to the ice, she didn't get a point in her first 4 games. But after that, she got scorching hot, going on a 7-game point streak and finishing the season with 9 goals and 5 assists in only 16 games.
And once I got those first games off my back, I finally started putting pucks in the back of the net, and they just kept coming, I guess.
Kendra and the rest of her team are in the finals and looking to repeat as champions for the 4th straight year. Not a bad way to finish the season after the start she had. And the Edmonton Eskimos continue to beef up their roster as they get ready to defend their Grey Cup. The Eskies announced the signing of veteran receiver Chris Getzlaff. He joins the Eskimos after spending 9 years with the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
I'm pumped. I can't wait to get back out there and start running around with the boys. You know, like I said, there's a lot of weapons already on this offense, and can't wait to get out and run around with them.
The Eskimos have been busy this year dishing out a series of extensions, including 2-year deals to J.C. Sherritt and Adarius Bowman. Both of them were vital pieces in last year's championship squad. Now for this week's End Zone Challenge, I met with the guys from Monster Pro Wrestling to learn the basics of professional wrestling. Now they tried to beat me down, but they were not expecting me to be the natural talent I was. And to be honest, neither was I. But for real, please don't try this at home. The first thing we did was learn how to take bumps. A bump is a fall where you disperse the impact onto the mat by tucking your chin, kicking back, and slamming the mat with your hands. Next was lockups. You put your hand on his arm and neck, and that's what leads to head and arm locks. I was doing pretty good at everything, but then came the chops.
Ah! 2 chops, 1 each side. Okay. Here comes this one. Here we go. That was nothing.
The last thing I did was learn how to take a drop. The key to this is to lift your head up and raise your legs to absorb the impact. After all my training was completed, I was ready for my first match. I took on the Irishman, a 300-pound wrestler of the year, and it went pretty okay.
So I guess this wrestling thing isn't as easy as it looks. For NAIT NewsWatch, I'm Nathan Spence.
Wow, that wrestling looked intense.
Yeah, I can't believe you're standing in one piece right now.
Well, that's how it goes when you're a natural talent like myself. At least now I know if this broadcasting thing doesn't work out, I got a career in wrestling waiting for me.
Coming up after the break, Maddie and I help out on the hotline at Meals on Wheels.
We joined other volunteers to make 250 meals for those who can't cook for themselves.
We do serve people with disabilities, people that are homebound for whatever reason, low-income seniors.
Hey, I'm Kevin Bain, and coming up in entertainment, I've got a play for you, a festival, an Alberta connection to the Oscars, and I'll let you know what you can do this weekend while you still can. Stay tuned.
Clothing sponsored by Elite Sportswear, bringing you 60 years of dedication. Hair sponsored by Rock Salon and Spa.
Maddie and I went down to Meals on Wheels to pack some food for Edmontonians.
We grabbed an apron and a hairnet, scrubbed our hands, and got to work.
Meals on Wheels provides nutritious home-delivered meals for disabled people, seniors, and other people who are not able to cook for themselves. The organization packs almost 300 meals in a day. Some volunteers work in the kitchen, and some delivers food to the clients. Meals on Wheels aims to make their clients feel they are involved in the community.
We really try hard to fight the loneliness and the isolation that a lot of our clients face, which is detrimental to their health. So our motto is feeding body and soul, and we really believe in feeding both body, physical nutrition, as well as mental, the soul.
Meals on Wheels is always looking for volunteers. You can find their website under the links tab at naitnewswatch.ca.
Now it's time for entertainment, and I'm glad because I need some ideas for the weekend.
Yeah, and I heard Alberta has some things to be proud of after the Academy Awards. Here's Kevin Bain to tell us more.
That's right, ladies. The Oscars just passed, and one movie was the standout in this year's awards. The Revenant was nominated for 12 Academy Awards, and it took home 3. But even cooler than that, it was filmed right here in Alberta, and lots of Albertans had a helping hand.
I believe there was about 700 Albertans that were actually involved in the making of the film. Everything from makeup artists from Canmore, members of the Siksika Nation also, and post-production teams out of Calgary.
The minister went on to congratulate the Albertans on their hard work, and he says one of the biggest reasons for film companies choosing Albertan crews is because they have unparalleled professionalism. So keep up the good work, Albertans. Switching from the big screen to the stage, everyone knows the story Alice in Wonderland. Not so many are familiar with its close counterpart, Alice Through the Looking Glass. Not to worry, the folks at the Citadel Theatre have you covered. Alice Through the Looking Glass is a story written by Lewis Carroll about a little girl who feels lost, so she goes into the world of imagination to find herself. Much like Alice in Wonderland, the story is meant to truly make you feel like a 7-year-old again. Even though it shows similarities to Alice in Wonderland, it isn't the same.
So it's still following the adventures of Alice, who Lewis Carroll obviously really enjoyed writing about, but they're just different tales completely with different characters. Some characters cross over, but most don't.
The play runs now through March 20th. Tickets are still available, and you should visit the Citadel Theatre to catch that one. If you fancy the arts, I've got a festival you're going to want to check out. The Skirts of Fire Her Arts Festival celebrates the work of women. Performances from Edmonton's best local artists showcases live music, theatrical plays, dance, and many other fine arts. Oh, and I can't forget about the skirt competition.
Because we've got some dance, some music, some spoken word, comedy, just a little bit of everything. The ladies of Renovation will be playing there.
The entire festival takes place in the Alberta Avenue community in multiple venues in the area. The festival runs March 10th through the 13th. If you haven't gotten the chance to go for a skate on Edmonton's Freeze Way, you're running out of time quickly. The Edmonton Freeze Way in Victoria Park has had a great season, one that's soon coming to a close, but it isn't closed yet, and the ice is scheduled to be open until the end of March. But with the warm weather right now, it's quickly melting away.
The ice is still pretty good. It's getting a little mushy and soft out just because it's been so warm, but it's still a lot of fun, and I would encourage everyone to still get out here while they can.
Though much of the ice is given in to Mother Nature, it still has a few good days left of skating in it. So get out there with your family and friends this weekend and enjoy the last of winter. That wraps up entertainment for this week. Hopefully you've got some time to get out and enjoy the events going on. Thanks for joining me.
Wow, did you see the choreography for that Alice through the looking glass? The Alice and her reflection were played by two different girls.
I didn't know that's possible. Like, I thought it's like a real mirror or whatever.
I know. I definitely want to head to the Citadel Theatre and check that one out.
I want to try the Skit of Fire festival. Like girl power and like the skirt competition. That really interesting.
Yeah.
I want to try in the Victoria also.
Oh yeah, skating?
Yeah.
I'm sure Kevin Bain can teach you how. All right. Well, that has been your look at NAIT NewsWatch for this week. I'm Maddie Skinner. This is Jane Legaspi.
Have a good night.